let's talk a bit more tactically. So let's say you're the HR person and you've been asked a compliance type question. It's not in your policies. And even if it is, you should probably be checking. How would you go about that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think it's really important to understand that there are a number of things that you have to think through. It's not,
Okay.
it's sort of a multi-step process.
Okay, so what are the steps?
So first, you've got to think about all of the various legislation that might apply. So for example, let's say the issue you're looking at is something related to violence and harassment.
Right.
You know, those requirements are dealt with in different legislation in different provinces. And there could be more than one act that applies. So
Okay.
you'll find those in health and safety, employment standards, or human rights legislation. And every province, it's a little bit of a different mix. It may just be in one, it may be in, two of those, and it may be in different, different one or the other than in another province. The other thing is when you're thinking about what legislation applies, in some cases, there might be totally unrelated legislation that applies. So I can give you another example. If you're a federal employer, the section that says you can give an electronic pay stub is found under a privacy law regulation. It's not even in the employment standards stuff. The next thing you have to do is consider all of the section of the act and the regulations that might apply. So the way our legislation generally works, the act will set out many obligations, but the details are often found in the regulation. So you've got to check both. You may look and say, look, here's these sections of the act. They seem to set out what I need to do. If you don't look to the regulation, you could miss a whole bunch of other obligations that you have.
Are you safer just to look in the regulation and not look in the act, or do you have to do both?
You have to do both.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
So the place to start is the act, because that'll set out generally your general kind of obligation. So you would look to, for example, the Employment Standards Act in a province and look at what the issue is you might be looking for. You can't assume though that is all there is to it. You need to then look to the regulations.
Okay.
Similarly, you shouldn't just start with a regulation. Almost anything that's in a regulation, there's something connecting it in an act as well. Like the obligation comes somewhere from the act. So you really have to look at both.
Okay.